Mike, unexpectedly today, the first 2 phone calls we took were people that don't think Malik Willis can be an NFL quarterback. It's a bit early for that, I think.
Oh, yeah. I think he's a prospect.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a project. I think he's a prospect. And I'm excited about seeing more of it. I'm excited about seeing him kind of try to build on what he did the first time out. I mean, he has a lot of gifts. I think one of his great gifts is he's a guy who really likes the game and likes to work at it. And that's what really gives him a chance. I think that's the overriding thing I've come away from watching him is I think he's got a chance to be a starting quarterback in this league. I think he has the gifts. I think he has the work ethic. I think he can. I think it's possible. I don't think you can fully project at this moment. And I didn't leave there the other night saying, "Woo-hoo, this is all done." And I also didn't think, "Oh, well, this is never going to happen."
Yeah.
But I think you see glimpses. He got better as he went.
Yes.
I like the way he runs the team, and that's a part of it. He's got a presence, and not every quarterback does. And when they don't, it's a problem, especially in the big moments. So I think there's been much more good than bad. I would disagree politely with those folks. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
For sure. We were surprised at that take coming now. But
and back to back.
Yeah, and I was really impressed, like you said, like he has a way about him, right? Like and guys just kind of gravitate toward him. He's just one of those dudes. But he started 0 for 3, and he got as you said, he got better as the game went along, and it didn't look too big for him. You know what I mean? Like I know the head coach got upset when he didn't throw the ball to Dez at the bottom of the near sideline and took him out of the game. But for me, I mean, he started 0-3, and then he went 6 of 8, you know? And,
yeah, I mean, he one of them was a throwaway.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he did okay, and he made a couple of tough throws. And we've seen, I was watching practice one day last week, and he made the best throw that he's made in practice. He made an NFL quarterback throw. And I said, the person who was standing next to me, I said, that's the best throw he's made so far. That's an NFL quarterback throw. Because, listen, you've got to be able to make those reads. You've got to be able to make some things happen from the pocket. And most college quarterbacks today have not made those reads. They just haven't done it. In the system he was in, I don't think he made any reads.
Right.
And listen, I'm not knocking that. It's a great system that gets your best athletes on the field most quickly. And that's what high schools and colleges are doing now. Well, when you get to this league, it's like, you've got to hit Traylon Burks on a crossing route rather than run, because you're going to gain more yards from Traylon Burks with the ball in that situation than you are if you take off. You're also going to take a hit. And you have to learn that. You've got to make that throw. And, that's the thing. That's why our offense has functioned so much better with Ryan Tannehill, because he will make those throws. Marcus Mariota had gotten to the point he wouldn't throw the ball. He was going to hold it and take a sack or take off running or, throw a check down or whatever. And hopefully Marcus has gotten his game back together in Atlanta where he will let it go. But when a team figures out they can give you a look and you won't let the ball go, they're like, go ahead and run. Fine. That's great. You got 7 yards. We get a good whack at you, and we're going to get you in a third down situation where we know we will eventually be able to get off the field.
Playing odds.
Mike Keith with us. Vaught, was there anything that you walked away after that first preseason game concerned with? And maybe concern's not the right word because it is a preseason game, but maybe you thought, oh, that might need a little more attention.
No, I didn't come away with any of that. I was actually quite thrilled because I thought, here you are getting to play the Ravens second and third teamers as well. Mm-hmm. And you had a really good scrimmage. Now, what'd you do? You fumbled.
Yeah.
and you threw 2 picks. You lost because you fumbled and you threw 2 picks. Okay, big deal. It didn't count in the record book. But you got to see a lot of people. You got to have a lot of the young guys make mistakes. You know, they've been back on the field now for 3 days correcting those mistakes. We're going to get a chance to see how it builds into these practices against the Bucs. I mean, to me, it's exactly what you wanted. What you don't want, Dawn, is you don't want your number one unit going against their 2s and 3s, or their number one unit going against your 2s and 3s, because you don't see anything. I mean, a bunch of guys got to play a ton of plays. There weren't really injuries to speak of in terms of anything catastrophic on both sides. You know, I mean, it was just good work, and now you're going to get a chance to do more good work. Would I like to know who the right tackle is right now? Yes. I mean, does more need to happen there? Yes. But I'm not concerned about it. I didn't come away from there feeling any differently than I did before.
Speaking of right tackle, what did you think of Petit Frere? Looks like he has a really high ceiling to me.
He does. He does. I don't know if he's ready to start yet,
Yeah.
but he will start for us at some position at some point. He's a player. He's a football player. I mean, he hits people, and he wants to knock them down, and he moves well. And, I mean, he just clearly likes the game. And when you say high ceiling, I think that's really true, because you just get the idea watching him that he's not nearly as good physically as he's going to end up being. I mean, to me, he looks a lot like Lewan. He's not quite as tall and long, but he looks a lot like Lewan did his rookie year. You know, you see the gifts and you say, okay, that's going to happen. And I think that's the way Nicholas Petit Frere is going to end up being. Very excited about him. Really thrilled with his progress, and the fact that he's making a run at the starting job right now when Radens is doing a nice job. He's doing fine. And yet this kid's pushing him. That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm. Mike, let's switch to the defensive side of the ball quickly. I'm looking at the trenches, man. I'm a trenches guy, and I like to see when the foundational pieces are there that have the mentality that the first string has. And in these situations, you got to have guys that have played before. So when you look at guys like Ola, when you look at Naquan Jones and the Tierra Tarts and people like that, when they play the way they play, Rashad Weaver also having experience from last year before getting hurt. When they play like they play, it excites me because I know they're carrying over what the first team guys that them being in season, they played with before in that same mentality. That's something to hold on to, or am I looking too deep into it?
No, you're 100% right. That's the deepest, in my opinion, the deepest position on the football team is the defensive line. And they are going to end up either keeping 7 defensive linemen, which is hard to believe, or they're going to end up cutting a guy or 2 or 3 who's going to get picked up immediately to go play somewhere else. Mm-hmm. The defensive line play, to me, was the highlight of the night, because not only were they making tackles in the run game and doing a good job, and they got some pressure. The ball was coming out fast, so it was hard to kind of get a sense about how they were going to hit the quarterback. But what they did do is hustling to the ball, making tackles side to side down the field, continued pursuit. I mean, that group, Jeff Simmons and Danico Archery weren't even in there. Mm-hmm. And yet you're still getting the performance that you got from multiple guys. John Robinson has done a great job stockpiling defensive linemen who can help this team at a moment's notice. It's going to be not only hard to cut them, it's going to be hard to decide who's down on game day. Yeah. Because if they keep 6, Ron, they can't keep all 6 up on game day.
Right.
Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, with us on 3HL for his weekly visit. There's always a guy to me, Mike, like when you watch these preseason games, that's in there with the 2s and the 3s that looks like he's better than that. Like he just stands out. And to me, I made this case the other day. To me, it was Rashad Weaver.
Weaver.
Yes. And I mean, he just looks like a dude out there, right? Like, and the play that he made for the tackle for the loss, where the play was initially everything was going away from him, he stayed at home, took on the block, made the tackle, and that wasn't the only play. Like, he was getting up the field, getting penetration. Really impressed with him.
When you talk about Pittsburgh right now, when you talk about Pitt, and you talk about the defensive linemen they're putting out, I mean, what's the talk about them? Going into September as Tennessee gets ready to play them on September 10th. It's their front on defense. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing, coaching up guys, is working. They are putting out some players, and I know everybody's like, well, Mike, remember, that's where Aaron Donald went. Yeah, but that was a long time ago. This last 2 to 3 years, they have really put out some guys. And everybody said coming out of this, he's not the best athlete. He's not the one that you see and you go, 4.5 in the 40 or 35-inch arms or, this, that, or the amazing 3-cone or whatever. All he does is play football. He's got good size. It's not crazy. He's got good athleticism. Okay, it's not crazy. But he's a really good football player, and that's what he did last preseason. That's what he was doing early in the season before he got hurt. And listen, he is a rotational player who can really, really help us. And I've said this before, Brent, I've said it probably 10 times on your show. If you're going to play a 3-4, your outside backers had better be outstanding. And Landry's been there, and now he is, firmly entrenched. We know who Bud Dupree is. We saw him at the end of the season. Ola gives you a shot when he comes in the ball game. But the guy who has the best case to be that third guy is Rashad. And you'd better have more than one. You really ought to have more than two. You need 4. And I think the Titans may have 4.
That's a good look right there.
Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, with us. All right, they get some work Wednesday, Thursday with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who will be in town. How valuable is that to this football team?
Huge. And it's huge in the second week of the preseason to see what the improvement is, to see you compete against guys that you have not been practicing against every day. In a lot of ways, it's more valuable than the preseason game. The second part of it with the preseason game that's more valuable is what people do under the lights. Because like Ron Slay used to do, I used to see him in practice and you'd think, Ron Slay, he's pretty good. Once the lights came on, though, Ron Slay went crazy. Well, let's face it, we all know there are guys who shrink up when the lights come on, and there are guys who become something totally different. That does happen. But for the play-to-play, time-to-time, really good look at it work, that's what you're going to get against Tampa this week and against Arizona next week. I think how they have scheduled it, who they've scheduled it against, and when they've scheduled it is going to work out really well for this Titans